And D.C. politics came to NU this week when Congressman Adam Schiff visited campus to deliver a lecture. The chair of the House Intelligence Committee discussed the global rise of right-wing politics, including the Donald Trump presidency. Schiff has taken direct fire from the president in recent weeks because he's heavily involved in the impeachment inquiry launched against Trump. History professor Michael Allen led a discussion with Schiff after his address. He said the lecture was in the works much before the impeachment inquiry even began.
Congressman Schiff accepted the invitation relatively quickly, and a date has been set for over a year. He was at the center of the Mueller investigation. When the impeachment inquiry opened, we thought maybe he's going to need to back out, but he seemed intent on going through. I was just very struck by how serious and thoughtful and I thought eloquent he was. I mean, he didn't strike me as someone who, is engaged in some kind of like partisan witch hunt.
So heading back to D.C., what's the latest on the impeachment inquiry? Well, this morning, the Trump administration barred European Union Ambassador Gordon Sondland from testifying. Sondland was considered a key witness to Democrats, and Congressman Schiff told reporters today that Trump's decision was, quote, evidence of obstruction. Trump tweeted that he blocked Sondland because the investigation is a, quote, kangaroo court where the Republicans' rights are taken away. This investigation has dominated recent political news, beginning when a whistleblower reported a phone call between Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
As you probably know by now, transcripts of that phone call showed Trump asking the Ukrainian president to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden's family, all while Ukraine was seeking money from the U.S. Now, this led the House of Representatives to open an impeachment inquiry into President Trump, as some say he was asking for a quid pro quo. Trump has repeatedly denied this. Now that is a lot to unpack, and we want to examine all of it, so we're welcoming in our panel. We have Dylan Clausen of Northwestern College Republicans and Mia Mamone, editor-in-chief of North by Northwestern.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So to jump right in, this isn't the first time that President Trump has been accused of soliciting foreign aid in an election, but why now? Why is this inquiry coming about? Why didn't it happen with Russia?
I mean, I think that's a great question. A lot of things that have happened in this administration don't make a lot of sense. I think now, people are really looking for the smoking gun, and we've seen even Republicans kind of say, this is very suspect, it should be investigated, it's not a matter of party, it's for the country. So I'm genuinely not sure, what makes it different, but I think it has the most possibility we've seen so far.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree that people have been looking for the smoking gun for the Trump impeachment or potential impeachment for a long time. In fact, just a week after Trump was elected and multiple months before he was inaugurated, there were articles already being published by Vanity Fair, The Washington Post, and other outlets about whether or not Trump would be impeached and what might cause it. So this hunt has been out for a long time, and the Ukraine was just the best opportunity that Democrats have found to cling to so far.
So just to follow up there have been many House Democrats, including freshman Democrats, who've been wary of approaching impeachment up until now, but this kind of flipped the switch, and 7 of them, national security Democrats, penned an op-ed in the Washington Post where they talked about why this was the moment where they decided to proceed with the impeachment inquiry. Why do you think that was?
Yeah, well, like I said, I think that the Ukraine opportunity is the best that the Democrats have managed so far in terms of having the potential for an impeachable offense. I don't think the evidence is there as of now to actually impeach the president, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the inquiry proceed to a vote in the House floor and have it passed along to the Senate. But the Russian investigation, they ended up finding nothing on collusion and only a potential obstruction, which was never substantially backed by the the testimony before the House, which was kind of the end of that. I haven't heard anything from that since.
Do you have anything why, for even many Democrats, was this the moment where they said, okay, he's got to go?
I'm really not sure. I've been disappointed in Democratic leadership. I think there's been a long history of Trump having many very suspicious actions he's taken. We also forget, I think, that there are multiple allegations of sexual assault that are launched against the president. And, it's, of course, harder to get the ball rolling on something like that. I think they're using this chance now with the foreign policy and everything to look into impeachment. And if this is what it takes, I'm happy for that. I think it really should have happened a lot sooner, though.
All right, Dylan, I'm going to shift over to you now. With a Democratic-controlled House and a Republican-controlled Senate, how big of a threat does this impeachment inquiry pose to President Trump, or is it all just for show?
I think the only realistic threat that the inquiry poses to President Trump would be how voters receive this and come the general election next November. Realistically, for Trump to be impeached and removed from office, that would require 20 Republicans plus the entirety of the Democratic Senate to vote in favor of conviction of of an impeachable offense. And I don't see anything as of now that would flip 20 of those red seats blue in an impeachment trial.
I mean, even he can be impeached without being removed from office. Do you think if that were to happen, that may influence his 2020 prospects by maybe, independent voters or voters who haven't decided yet, deciding, you know what, I'm not going to vote for him this time because, it puts a mark, on his presidency?
Right, and I think there's a good possibility that he will be impeached without being removed from office. In that case, I certainly don't think he will lose any of his Republican or conservative supporters. I think there is a chance that some maybe independent or people who are leaning or people who switched over from Obama in the past, it might help them go Democrat or go with someone else. But as far as his base and as far as Republicans go, I don't see them changing at all.
So is this going to change the 2020 election at all? Is it going to detract from talking about policy?
Well, it will absolutely detract from discussion on policy. This is something that's going to be a cloud over the president's head for the entirety of the election, so long as this inquiry continues. And on the part of Democrats, this is a major gambit because there's potential for the public to become very weary of the constant pursuit of something to go after Donald Trump for. We've seen it with Russia lasting all of 2 years before they finally found Ukraine to shift focus to. And the question is whether the public will become weary of that because it seems like an unnecessary witch hunt, to use the president's terminology, or whether they become weary of the president being caught up in this and turn to the other side.
Now, you talk about the Russia investigation taking 2 years. This impeachment process can be, one that's very long. Do you think it's going to play out by the time we even get to 2020?
Yeah. I think that's going to depend very heavily on what comes in the next couple of weeks, couple of months on the inquiry side. Right now, all we have to go off of is a transcript and the 2 whistleblowers, one of which leaked the transcript effectively, and the other of which basically said the first whistleblower was right. And that alone doesn't really lead to an impeachment. And so I think Democrats will be spending the next couple of weeks or a little bit longer looking for something, the smoking gun, so to speak, something to substantiate the Ukraine claims as a quid pro quo, rather than Trump going off the cuff in his foreign policy.
Yeah. Mia, is there enough time between now and next November for this to make a serious impact, or is the clock just going to run out?
I sure hope there's enough time, but regardless, I can certainly agree that I think the public might get kind of weary or tired of it, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't follow due process and kind of, stay committed to the Constitution and stay committed to preserving the national security and well-being of the country. So I hope we have enough time, but regardless, I think they should still see it through.
All right, we'll be keeping a close eye on this story, but we'll have to leave it there. We'll be right back.